The world is just a thin veil. Beneath it, harbingers of doom and fires that never die. Today, 10 chilling mysteries, from the real hell that inspired Silent Hill to ghostly pianos lost beneath the waves. These are echoes of the unknown. Hit subscribe and like now. You can always undo it later. Let's peel back the veil. Between 1966 and 1967, the small town of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, became the center of one of America's most disturbing unexplained phenomena. It began with terrified eyewitnesses reporting a tall, winged figure with glowing red eyes. The creature was not flying like a bird. It hovered, followed cars at impossible speeds, and appeared suddenly near abandoned areas and old military sites. Locals soon gave it a name: the Mothman. Sightings increased rapidly. Couples claimed the creature chased their car at over 100 miles per hour. Others reported hearing strange mechanical screeches, sudden power failures, and intense feelings of dread before encounters. Police officers also filed official reports, unable to explain what they saw. Then came the phone calls. Residents began receiving disturbing messages from unknown voices, whispering prophecies, numbers, and warnings. Some claimed the caller identified itself as Indrid Cold, speaking in a calm, unnatural tone. On December 15, 1967, tragedy struck. The Silver Bridge, connecting Point Pleasant to Ohio, collapsed during rush hour, killing 46 people. Many witnesses later claimed they saw a large, shadowy figure perched near the bridge shortly before the disaster. After the collapse, sightings of the Mothman abruptly stopped. No physical evidence was ever found. Theories range from mass hysteria and experimental aircraft to interdimensional entities or something far darker. What makes the case chilling is not just the creature, but the pattern: appearances followed by catastrophe. To this day, the Mothman remains a symbol of warning, not a monster that attacks, but one that arrives before everything goes wrong. On the night of February 9, 2004, 21-year-old Maura Murray, a nursing student, vanished from a dark rural road in Haverhill, New Hampshire, and left behind one of the most obsessively analyzed cases in internet history. Maura abruptly left her university after emailing professors about a vague family emergency. She withdrew almost all her money, packed her car, and drove north alone. No one knows exactly why. That night, her car crashed into a snowbank on Route 112. A passing bus driver stopped to help. Maura appeared shaken but refused assistance, insisting she had already called roadside help, a call that records show never happened. Minutes later, the bus driver drove away to call police. When officers arrived less than 10 minutes later, Maura was gone. There were no footprints leading into the woods, no signs of a struggle, no confirmed sightings afterward. Her phone was off, her bank account was untouched. She vanished into freezing darkness without leaving a trace. What followed was unprecedented. Thousands of online investigators dissected every detail: security footage, emails, maps, weather patterns. The case became one of the first true internet mysteries, spawning forums, podcasts, and theories that continue 2 decades later. Some believe Maura ran away to start a new life. Others suspect foul play, a passing driver, a hidden accomplice, or something she was running from. More unsettling theories suggest she died in the woods and was never found, or that she never entered them at all. Despite massive searches, dogs, helicopters, and years of investigation, no physical evidence has ever explained her disappearance. Maura Murray did not fade slowly. She vanished in minutes, and the internet has been chasing her shadow ever since. High above the town of Eureka Springs, Arkansas, stands the Crescent Hotel, a grand limestone building that hides one of the darkest medical scandals in American history. In the 1930s, during the Great Depression, the hotel was taken over by a charismatic man calling himself Dr. Norman Baker. He claimed to have discovered a miracle cure for cancer, a secret treatment the government and medical elite supposedly wanted to suppress. Desperate patients arrived from across the United States. They checked into the Crescent believing it was a hospital. It wasn't. Baker had no medical degree. His treatment consisted of injections, creams, fasting, and electrical devices that did nothing to stop the disease. While patients grew weaker, Baker broadcast radio shows from the hotel, promoting himself as a persecuted genius. Many patients never left alive. Those who died were quietly removed through hidden hallways. Families were told their loved ones had passed peacefully, while Baker continued charging enormous fees. Investigators later found jars of preserved organs, surgical equipment, and evidence of human experimentation in the building. Eventually, federal agents shut the operation down. Baker was convicted of mail fraud and sent to prison, but the damage was already done. Today, the Crescent Hotel is known as America's most haunted hotel. Guests and staff report hearing footsteps in empty halls, seeing shadowy figures, and encountering apparitions believed to be former patients, some still wearing hospital gowns. Room 218 is said to be especially active, associated with Baker himself. Whether one believes in ghosts or not, the history is undeniable. This was not just a hotel. It was not just a scam. For many, the Crescent became a place where hope was sold and life quietly taken away. In the quiet suburbs of Delaware, Ohio, during the summer of 1977, the universe decided to break its silence. The Big Ear radio telescope was scanning the stars as part of a routine search for extraterrestrial intelligence. At 11:16 p.m. on August 15, the equipment registered a narrow-band radio burst that lasted exactly 72 seconds. It arrived on a frequency of 1420 megahertz, the hydrogen line, a frequency scientists long believed an advanced civilization would use to announce its presence. The data appeared as a cryptic string of characters, 6EQJ5. Astronomer Jerry Amon was so stunned by the intensity of the broadcast that he circled the sequence in red ink and wrote a single word in the margin: "Wow." It remains the strongest, clearest evidence of a non-human signal ever recorded in history. But as decades passed without a repeat, the wonder surrounding the event began to sour into something more unsettling. The signal did not originate from a planet or a known star system. It came from a seemingly empty void in the constellation Sagittarius. There was no satellite in the area, no comet, and no terrestrial interference that could explain a 72-second transmission of such power. For over a minute, something focused a massive amount of energy directly toward Earth. And then, as if realizing it had been heard, it vanished into total silence. The true horror lies in the mathematics of the encounter. The 72-second duration is exactly the window of time the Big Ear's antenna could track a single point in space due to the Earth's rotation. This confirms the source was stationary and intentionally aimed. Today, some theorists suggest the signal wasn't a greeting, but a cosmic ping used by a predator to map the darkness. We were not listening to a message. We were being detected. Deep beneath the desolate landscape of Centralia, Pennsylvania, a fire has been burning for over 60 years. It does not flicker in the wind or die down with the rain.
Instead, it feeds on the massive veins of anthracite coal that stretch like blackened arteries beneath the town's foundations. What began as a routine trash fire in 1962 in a local landfill accidentally ignited the labyrinth of abandoned mines below, turning the earth into a literal furnace. The transformation of Centralia into a modern-day ghost town served as the primary visual inspiration for the Silent Hill film. In its prime, the town was a bustling community of miners. Today, it is a wasteland of buckled asphalt and toxic vents. Highway 61, once a major artery, is now a fractured ruin where white plumes of sulfurous steam rise from deep fissures. The air carries the heavy stench of sulfur, and the ground remains unnaturally warm to the touch. The true horror of Centralia lies in its unpredictability. In 1981, a 12-year-old boy was nearly swallowed whole when the ground beneath his feet suddenly collapsed into a steaming 150-foot-deep sinkhole. Carbon monoxide levels in local basements spiked to lethal levels, forcing a mass evacuation. The government eventually stripped the town of its zip code, effectively erasing it from the map. Scientists estimate that there is enough coal to fuel this subterranean inferno for another 250 years. There is no known way to extinguish it. While the surface appears abandoned, the fire continues to crawl forward in the darkness, a persistent, invisible predator that has turned a peaceful American town into a permanent gateway to the underworld.
Lake Michigan is a vast, frigid graveyard. Its floor is littered with over 6,000 shipwrecks, many preserved perfectly by the icy, oxygen-poor depths. Among these ruins lie luxury steamers from the 19th century, carrying the opulence of a bygone era, including heavy, ornate, upright pianos. While most see these as silent relics, a persistent phenomenon known as the haunted pianos suggests the lake never truly sleeps. During the dead of winter, when the surface is sealed under a thick sheet of blue ice, residents along the coast have reported hearing faint, melodic chimes rising from the black water below. The physics behind the sound are as unsettling as the music itself. Sound travels significantly faster and further through water and ice than through the open air. Skeptics argue that shifting underwater currents or the movement of structural debris within rotted hulls may occasionally strike the copper strings of these sunken instruments. However, those who have braved the ice in the middle of the night describe something far more deliberate. The sounds are rarely discordant. Instead, they often resemble fragmented funeral dirges or distorted Victorian waltzes, echoing with a rhythmic precision that defies simple coincidence. The tragedy of ships like the Lady Elgin or the Westmoreland provides a grim context. These vessels were lost with hundreds of souls, many of whom were gathered in grand ballrooms where music played until the final moment of impact. Some researchers suggest that the unique geological structure of the Great Lakes allows them to act as massive acoustic resonators, capturing and preserving the vibrations of a disaster. Whether a trick of atmospheric acoustics or a lingering psychic echo, the music of Lake Michigan remains a chilling reminder that beneath the ice, the past is still playing its final frozen notes. Deep within the murky red clay waters of the Chattahoochee River near Atlanta, Georgia, lies an anomaly that defies historical logic. In the early 20th century, rumors began to circulate among local fishermen about a massive metallic beast resting on the riverbed. When water levels dropped during severe droughts, the rusted, cigar-shaped hull of a primitive submarine would break the surface. The mystery was immediate and unsettling. Atlanta is hundreds of miles from the Atlantic Ocean, and the shallow, winding river is entirely unsuitable for submarine navigation. The vessel was eventually identified as a prototype designed by a local eccentric, but its presence in the river remains shrouded in a dark atmospheric fog. Records concerning its construction are fragmentary and contradictory. Unlike military submersibles of the era, this craft lacked a conning tower or standard escape hatches. It was a steel coffin bolted shut from the outside. When explorers first located the wreck, they found the interior filled with thick black silt, hiding what many believed to be the remains of a secret, unsanctioned experiment that went horribly wrong. Local legends claimed the submarine wasn't just a transport vessel, but a test bed for a pressure cooker diving system that ignored all safety protocols. The chilling part of the story is the persistent report of rhythmic metallic tapping from the hull during high tide, a sound that has been heard for decades after the vessel was abandoned. This phantom knocking suggests that something or someone was still inside when the river claimed the craft. To this day, the Atlantis submarine sits as a rotting monument to blind ambition, a deep-sea predator trapped in a freshwater grave where it never belonged. In the sun-drenched hills of 1970s Hollywood, a different kind of darkness was brewing beneath the veneer of free love. Led by a charismatic World War II veteran and stuntman named James Baker, later known as Father Yod, the Source family was a utopian cult that operated out of a mansion in the Hollywood Hills. They were famous for The Source, one of the country's first successful health food restaurants on the Sunset Strip, frequented by celebrities like John Lennon and Julie Christie. But behind the scenes, the group's pursuit of spiritual purity evolved into a rigid, isolated hierarchy fueled by occult rituals and psychological control. The atmosphere within the family's mansion, known as the Mother House, was one of absolute devotion. Father Yod, a man who had reportedly killed 2 men in self-defense and was a black belt in jiu-jitsu, styled himself as a living god. He maintained a harem of 14 wives and dictated every aspect of his followers' lives, from their diet to their sexual encounters. While the world saw long-haired youths serving organic salads, the reality was a high-stakes social experiment where hundreds of people surrendered their identities and assets to a single, unpredictable patriarch. The true chilling nature of the Source family was revealed during their sudden exodus. Paranoia began to take hold as Father Yod feared government intervention. He moved the entire cult to Hawaii, cramming dozens of people into unsuitable living conditions. The Utopia crumbled when their leader attempted a hang-gliding flight from a dangerous cliff without any experience, resulting in his death. Without their central sun, the family collapsed, leaving behind a trail of broken lives and a haunting legacy. It remains a grim reminder of how easily the search for light in Hollywood can lead a person directly into the shadows of total submission. On the humid evening of August 25, 1951, 3 professors from Texas Technological College were sitting in a backyard in Lubbock when the sky produced an anomaly that would baffle the Pentagon for decades. They witnessed a formation of approximately 20 to 30 luminous bluish-green lights soaring overhead in a perfect V shape. The objects crossed the entire sky in a matter of seconds, moving with a silent, terrifying velocity that no aircraft of the era could match. Unlike standard meteors, these lights maintained a rigid, geometric alignment, suggesting a level of intelligent coordination that defied natural explanation. The phenomenon was not a localized hallucination. Over the next few weeks, hundreds of residents across the Texas Panhandle reported the same chilling sight. The lights were described as having an oily, neon glow, and they moved with a distinct lack of sound, a physical impossibility for any jet engine breaking the sound barrier. A freshman at Texas Tech, Carl Hart Jr., managed to capture 5 photographs of the formation,
These images, showing the hauntingly precise V shape, became some of the most analyzed and debated artifacts in the history of aerial phenomena. The Air Force's official investigation, Project Blue Book, eventually dismissed the sightings as reflections of streetlights on the underbellies of plovers, a type of migratory bird. However, the witnesses, including the highly trained scientists, rejected this explanation with contempt. The birds would have had to travel at over 600 miles per hour to match the observed speed. The Lubbock lights remain a landmark case because of the credibility of the observers and the sheer scale of the event. To this day, the residents of West Texas remember 1951 as the year something massive and silent patrolled their skies, proving that even in the vast openness of the desert, we are never truly unobserved.
In hospital rooms across the United States, doctors and nurses have documented a phenomenon that challenges everything we think we know about consciousness and death. These cases are known as shared near-death experiences, or shared NDEs. Unlike typical near-death experiences where only the dying patient reports visions, shared NDEs involve multiple people witnessing the same phenomenon at the same time. In several documented cases, medical staff, family members, or even other patients reported seeing identical visions moments before a person's death. One of the most frequently reported events occurs during the final minutes of life. As a patient flatlines, people in the room describe seeing a mist, light, or human-shaped form rise from the body. What makes these cases disturbing is consistency. Witnesses later describe the same details independently without knowing what the others saw. In one U.S. hospice case from the early 2000s, 2 nurses and a family member reported seeing the dying patient sit upright, smile at something above the bed, and then appear to fade into a glowing presence near the ceiling. Medical equipment recorded no brain activity at that moment. Even more unsettling are reports where living observers briefly experience the sensation themselves, feelings of weightlessness, intense peace, or the impression of being pulled toward the same light as the dying person. Skeptics argue this could be stress-induced hallucination or emotional contagion. However, these explanations struggle to account for synchronized details, shared timing, and cases involving trained medical professionals accustomed to death. Today, shared near-death experiences remain one of the most controversial topics in American medical and psychological research. If consciousness truly ends at death, then why does it sometimes appear to be witnessed leaving by more than one person at once? If any of these stories stayed with you, share your thoughts below. Like, subscribe, and maybe your story will be next.